Hello students, today I'm gonna delineate you with the topic experiment and experience. It is a philosophical essay written by W.R. Niblett. Here he is giving a detailed explanation of experiment and experience. First he takes the concept experiment. Experiment is a process of gaining knowledge through collected hard facts which are based upon evidences. This process was generally adopted by people in the 20th century. There, they extensively used it as a method of gaining knowledge. Science was taught in schools by experiments. It had become their primary method which they frequently used. Everyone learned equations, facts, law of science by doing some kind of experiments. There are still some experiments which are popular and recognizable by the most of the students, and these are to find out the pH value of a given sample, to study the properties of acid and base, to determine focal length of a concave mirror, to trace the path of the rays of light, to prepare a temporary mount of a leaf, to show stomata, to analyze the effect of difference in mass at the object to its velocity. So these type of experiments make student a good observer. Now we are talking about here writer is giving some kind of features of this experiment method. What he is saying here? So he is saying that experiments make student a good observer. He can apply inductive and deductive approach for solving any problem of his life. He can bring out the truth of the nature and the world. He can understand the basic phenomena of the nature and the world. He can be a research oriented person. Experiments help in research. For an example, how many people listen radio and even if they have television? Now here a writer gives an example of a kind of experiment which is not related to science. And the experiment is how many people listen radio even if they have television. So this is a research topic which is not related to experiment, but here we can include all the factors which are helpful for the experiment. So the factors which are helpful in experiment, we can use all those factors there for this research. So what do you mean by experiment? Experimental method is the only research method that can identify cause and effect relationship. Experiment method is one of the data collection that may be used to assess practical knowledge. These methods are certainly not the only method, for many others are also available, such as survey, content analysis, structured and unstructured observation, and so many others. So that's why we include this type of topic also in experimental method. The question is not science based, but scientific attitude helps us in getting the answer of this question. Now I repeat the question again so that you can better understand. The question is here, how many people listen radio even if they have television? So here writer is giving importance to scientific attitude, not particularly he is giving importance to experiment. So what does scientific attitude mean? So scientific attitude. First, let's discuss about attitude. Attitude is essential for education of the individual. It shows the inner views of a person. If a person has positive attitude towards an object, he will try his best to achieve it. If he has a negative attitude towards an object, he will try to avoid it. Thus, attitude plays an important role in determining the success and failure of a person in any field. Now, let's take about scientific attitude. Scientific attitude includes open mindedness, suspended judgment, critical thinking, rationality, unbiasedness, curiosity, keen observation, objectivity, and aversion to superstitions. We should avoid superstitions. So, how this scientific attitude helps us in getting knowledge and awareness of all kind. Now, he is also saying that every subject uses this scientific methodology. It helps in understanding of history, art, literature, music, sociology, and psychology. How does it help? History, if we are adopting a scientific attitude or we are using experimental method in learning history or in understanding history, so here we can get to know about the way of life of people in certain eras. So if we want to understand the way of life of people in certain eras, then we are to check one by one all those eras and how people they were living there. So this we can get by proper using the experimental method. Now if we are talking about art, the order of painting by some artist or their originality. So we can collect this type of information by using step by step order of the experimental method. Literature, how and why certain texts were written and what was there the trend, which trend they were following by writing their literature. So how and why certain texts were written? If we are going to search this, it is a research topic, and if we are going to research all those things, so we'll find there were certain tendencies which they were following. What type of the surroundings were there? They were writing according to those surroundings. Why Shakespeare was so famous there? Because he was writing according to his period. So if we want to get the this fact that why he was so famous, that in this era also, in this postmodern period, we are liking his literature, his philosophical dramas and poems, sonnets, everything we are liking with the same tendency as the people of the Elizabethan period were reading his work. So we'll find a particular taste was there of the audience, and that taste is continue in this period. So that taste was not of particularly of the audience, but that taste he involved there in his work, so that his work is likable for all of the eras. Now music. In music, if we find out the difference between the two musicians, so that we can also find out this difference, the difference between the two musicians, how they are so different in nature, different in their musical terms, but they are very much good and they are very much famous, but they are very different in using all the terms related to music. So this also we can analyze with the experimental method. Sociology, what are the reasons for certain social situations? So there are certain social situations, these are very different. Like here, this period of lockdown, it is totally different period. People, they did not face this type of situation earlier. Most of the people, generally it was the time of epidemic, floods, war, people they face that also. In Indian situation, some people they faced partition time. So we can analyze those social situations with the use of the experimental method, because experimental method is a kind of attitude and which involves scientific attitude where you are identifying cause and effect relationship, where you are adopting a policy, where you are doing everything step by step in a particular order. You are finding out problems and you are trying to get the solution, but in a very systematic way. So that is scientific attitude, or that is the term experiment. Now the last subject which he is talking about, psychology. So why certain behavior is shown by a certain people? Now thief has a certain kind of behavior, a common man has a certain kind of behavior, a politician has a certain kind of behavior. So if we are going to judge all these things, then we'll find some terms which are different from one to another behavior. So here also we are to apply the same scientific attitude to search out all those different behavior. So this is the term which he explains about experiment. Now experience. He is taking the second term, experience. Experience has no defined methodology. Here methodology is absent, as there is no connection or accuracy between experiences perceived by different persons. There he is talking about some characteristics of experience. So it doesn't require any particular frame of mind. As we have discussed in experiment, that a particular mindset is required for applying experimental technique, but in experience it does not require any particular frame of mind. It needs mind and sensory organs to be active. Most of the time 2 or 3 sensory organs are enough for experience. Generally we all have 5 sensory organs, but 2 and 3 are enough for getting proper experience. Experience cannot be prepared or planned. It happens with people in arbitrary way. Sometimes we get those experiences in our life which are no matter related to our surroundings, related to our like here, if you are very rich but you have a poor friend, then you have automatically got the experience of a poor life, how they are living, what are their problems. So experience is not a very planned activity. Experience, it happens with people in arbitrary way. Arbitrary way means there is no relationship between the two content, between the two things. One experience may be different from the another experience. One situation may be different from the another situation. You cannot apply one, maybe you can apply one experience to solve your another problem. This is a different thing. Experiment cannot be repeated, not even by the same person, as different people have different taste, ideology, situations and past experiences. So, experience cannot be repeated. Always you will find out certain elements of change there. If you are working in a company and you are going to switch in a different company, then really you will find out certain elements which are totally different from your previous office. Some persons try to repeat and it will differ to some extent from the first one. Experience is subjective. It is based upon a particular field or subject. His beliefs, social background, position in power, mindset, preparation, etc. help him in getting experience. Experience also brings out a truth, and it adds to the knowledge of the person who has experienced it. He cannot pass it fully to the others, but this knowledge helps in growing and shaping his personality. Suppose I have an experience of a college, and now I am using that experience in teaching you in university. So here I am involving all those experiences teaching there in university, but I cannot pass those experiences of my life completely to use in a new situation. There I'll find out a certain type of change there. But it helps in growing and shaping his personality. Means if you have experience of a particular term and you can use that experience for your another term of work, it will give you a better judgment, better chance of growing and shaping up of your personality. Experiment and experience both are necessary for gaining knowledge of the world and the people around us and even the self. We can't use one as the substitute for the other. Experiments help in finding truth, which we can add to our collective knowledge. So now he is concluding the thing that experiences help in leading an effective life. Here author concludes that both experimental and experiential attitudes are necessary. One cannot be the substitute for the other. Both are required to survive a better life and to become a research oriented person. So this is enough for the day. Tomorrow we'll take this essay in a very detailed way. Till then, goodbye, stay safe, stay tuned. Thank you all of you.